take you now to one of South Africa's busiest border posts, which will be watched for the next few days. Beitbridge border post, a border between Zimbabwe and the Limpopo province, is expected and expecting thousands of people to flood from the post from the SADC countries, mainly Zimbabwe, as holidays come to an end. Officials say the return leg has always presented some serious challenges as travellers decide to illegally enter the country through the borderline. Now, Newzroom Afrika's Nqobile Madlala is at the border post this morning. Nqobile, a very good morning to you. We know that as people were trying to leave South Africa at the peak of the festive season, queues and queues left many of them frustrated. What's happening on the ground as many are now returning to South Africa?
Let me show you, in fact. So these are some of the people that are coming here. You'll see that this is a wave bridge. So the first stop, basically, of ensuring that everyone that's coming out of the border as well is adhering to the law. So you're seeing here SANDF that's working together with SAPS as well as border management. And so far we've seen quite a number of cars, of course not as many as what we had seen as people were still going out of the country. So they're trickling in slowly. We've seen some of the taxis as well as just normal private cars, but as well as the trucks. You will remember that the freight industry is one of the industries that was affected when there was a long line that was leaving the country around about the 23rd to the 24th. It was quite a number of trucks that had entered, and now we are seeing those buses and trucks returning. I want to bring in now the Commissioner to speak to us about, of course, these operations that we're seeing here at the Beitbridge. What do they help with?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Nqobile. I think what we can agree on is that we are now on the second leg of the execution of our plan, and in the second leg we are effectively dealing with now the return. So what we have actually done here at the Beitbridge, this is our first roadblock from the port. And then from here there is another roadblock 10 kilometers from here, from the port towards Musina. And then there is the third one that we have put just 30 kilometers after Musina towards Polokwane. So the purpose of the roadblocks is to make sure that we still do some further checks in all of the vehicles that come from the port side, to make sure that everybody who indeed enters the country through the N1 corridor do have the requisite documentation and they are indeed legitimate people to have crossed the port of entry and make sure that they go into the country illegally.
Well, Commissioner, we saw that you were already complaining about the fact that the second leg seems to be an issue because a lot of people try to push in without the correct document. Tell us about that.
So basically what we have started doing is we have deployed on the entrance gate from the Zimbabwean side. We call it the North Gate. So on that particular gate we have intensified the deployment of the border guards together with members of the South African Police Service. What they are basically doing there, they are actually making sure that only people that are having requisite documents are allowed to enter into the processing side, which is the actual port. So on that basis, we are starting to do some return because there are some people who are trying to come through without documentation. So we return them even before they enter into the port. So that on its own, what it does, it actually helps us to start sanitizing the port of entry and also to make sure that we don't allow people without documentation to enter our processing area and ultimately start kind of bribing our officials. So that is basically what we are doing. So we have returned some people up to this point, but at the end of the day, broadly, everything is still going according to plan.
And in terms of the numbers, because obviously there's people that have come through so far, tell me, how many people have you returned back home that have perhaps tried to do this?
Yeah, you see, now in terms of the numbers, we are busy collating those numbers, but in terms of from yesterday, as it were, there are some sizable number, but from here I'm going into the port for an official briefing, and that is where the ultimate reality of the figures will actually come through. But in terms of those that were able to come through from yesterday up to, day before yesterday, which is the first, and then yesterday, up to night, we have processed around 25,000 people that had legally entered South Africa and then they've moved in. That one we do have because it comes out of the system. But those that we return, we count them manually because we don't allow them to enter and get to be processed per se, and that is why we return them ahead of time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Well, that is Commissioner speaking to us in Paul, just telling us the process that's going to take place between now, of course, and a little later on. We understand that they're going to be watching this border very closely, mainly because of those people that do try to use it to come into the country illegally. But of course, we are going to get those numbers in terms of how many people have been blocked trying to do that a little later on. But at this point, over 20,000 people processed to have been coming into the country.
Very well, Nqobile Madlala. Let's leave it there for now. Of course, we will continue to check in with you throughout the course of the day.